printer.
Is it IoT enabled?
Yes, if you're going to make a toaster, it has to be IoT enabled. And it needs to use Log4j. That needs to be a requirement.
And just regularly paying them some service in China every 2 minutes or so.
Different services, though, just to make it interesting, so you can never pin down which one. Like, give it a list of services to ping.
Yes.
All right, we are live, and welcome, Corey.
Or just have it like.
Whoa, we're live already. Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No practice, Corey.
We haven't officially started.
This is the PSB, right?
Yes, it is.
Of sorts, yes.
I got a new angle, dude. I need to, I'm sorry, everyone. I don't.
You're on the dark side. There we go. We're going to
But-
the light.
Oh, God.
Side of the lighting.
The camera's just like hanging from the cable.
I think what needs to happen is as the show progresses, it needs to slowly tilt until it just falls off in the middle of the show.
Oh, I can accomplish that.
Brian, send the invite to this so then I can just log in with Gmail because the Yahoo account isn't agreeing with anything.
All right.
Wow, Yahoo.
Take two.
The Rocket Mail.
Nobody would guess Yahoo. It's virtually safe because they assume nobody uses it.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
Security through obscurity is a real thing for sure.
Right.
I don't
Actually,
even know
I take
the
that
password.
back. I think Yahoo is probably like the least safe email provider because it's mostly inhabited by like 85-year-old people who would be like, yes, I will share that picture of that puppy. Click.
I would say Yahoo, just every account is technically compromised.
The amount of ads on it is ridiculous. Like there's ads in the email feed, so you like be looking like, what is it? Oh, it's an ad. All right, keep going down. Like I need to make a more professional email account soon and transfer over.
Make your own, man. You with iCloud, if you have iCloud, you can register a custom domain on there. So that's what I did.
I have a
because
domain.
it's so hard to make a custom anything
I know,
else
right?
email.
I mean, are you gonna run freaking Mail Squirrel or whatever, dude? Hard pass.
I'm not that hardcore.
I have done all of the mail server things. I went down the rabbit hole.
All that mail servers are terrible. All of them.
I work
This
for
is
a
awesome.
shared hosting provider where we get all the mail, and I was like, never again am I messing with mail. I'm good.
Yeah, I love how I get on, and then immediately someone goes back and forth in a fucking Harley.
Dude, you know how cool that guy is? You should go get him on. Bring him on the show.
Go get him. Ask if he wants to join.
I'm offering him my wife. I'm like, you know what? You're so much cooler than I am.
0 to 100, real quick.
How many
you know
leather
what? I'll take
jackets?
it.
How many jackets do you have that are leather?
Oh, me? Well, there's
Too many to count.
none. I have none.
Okay, what
leather
about heavy
jackets.
hogs? Do you got a lot of heavy hogs?
Let's see. I've got 3 fairly good sized Mongoliste pigs. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm talking to steel hogs.
Yeah, I like it whenever I talk to people and they like, how many rallies have you been to? I'm like 45. They're like, what? Yeah, I was
like,
I
I
was
live in
born in
South
Sturgis
Dakota.
during the rally. I got that shit out of my system when I was 18. I'm done. Like, oh god.
Wait, are you like Ricky Bobby? You were born on the backseat of a Harley? going
It's not that.
55?
It's not that far off. I was actually born in Sturgis during the rally. And
Wow.
I've been in more rallies than like anybody else I know.
I think.
Doesn't
I
mean
think
I've
if
been
I
like
was to
hanging
go-
out in the street, or anything like
Whoa,
that.
how many tattoos you got, John?
0.
I
John,
just
No,
John,
I think if you're gonna
Slashing
get a
everybody.
motorcycle, though, you got to get the like 1,000 horsepower Boss Haas with the 350 small block,
Yeah.
like as the
Yeah,
if
engine.
you're
in
gonna do it, if you're gonna do
Heavy
it,
just
go,
go all the way.
go whole hog.
I imagine the Bane meme comes in perfectly. Like,
Yeah.
I was born in it.
I was born into it. But no, I got over that shit. It was cool when I was in middle school and I could go there and buy like cool gun-shaped lighters and knives.
See,
And
John, you
then
don't
I grew
understand.
up.
If you hate your life, you have to go to the rally. Otherwise, everything you live for is terrible.
Exactly. No, it was cooler when it was all Hell's Angels and all those like actual like real biker gangs because I'm from that old school. Like those are real bikers. Now it's a whole bunch of wannabe pansy asses that are just horrible. And what I mean by a real biker is like, where are you from? I'm from Connecticut. Did you ride your bike in? Kind of. What do you mean? Well, not a single part on this bike is the same parts on the bike that I started a month and a half ago. I've had to replace everything. At some point, it fell off, and I've had to hunt and kill deer on the side of the road to survive. Those were bikers, right? Now
The
they're like,
bike
"Well,
of Thesis.
I flew in on my jet, and
Theseus.
Harley was here for me."
And now I have an e-bike.
There's nothing wrong with e-bikes. That's nothing wrong with
No,
that.
nothing wrong with e-bikes. They're not motorcycles.
Well,
Yeah,
dude,
we're-
they're not loud enough to rattle your neighbor's windows, which is really the goal of motorcycle ownership.
Yeah, it's like, you can get a bike that doesn't do that. No, I got away from Harleys when I laid down an '89 Softail Evo, and when I was in high school, I was riding that back and forth to town to college because I figured that's a good way to get chicks who
That's safe.
are missing.
Oh,
missing
yeah.
teeth.
There's
And-
2 types of riders. Those
Yeah.
have been down and those are going down.
Yep. And I went down in a ditch coming up 385, and it was muddy, and I laid it down, and what happened is I hit a hubcap. So I hit a hubcap, went off into the ditch, and laid it down in the mud. And so I didn't get hurt or anything. But I'm pretty sure I pissed myself when I did that. And that was kind of
Luckily, the mud hid that.
yeah, luckily the mud hid that, but not the smell.
Maybe it was number 2. I don't know. We
Could have been,
can't
could have been,
confirm.
but that was it. That was it for me. I'll still get on a dirt bike and I'll still ride dirt bikes and still do that. But like being on a street bike, no, I laid it down. That was my one brush with death. Pretty much made me go the opposite direction and be done with that crap. And it's like, you know what a good career is? Computers. I should do that because the sun is trying to kill me. So, all right. I'm guessing we don't have a lot of Harley fans on our live stream listening to us right now. Like we're not.
Well,
There's two
there's
Venn
one.
diagrams.
There's only one.
They don't overlap really all that much, honestly, I guess.
We
Just
have definitely
Wispo.
some car guys. We have some car
Right.
guys on this, but I don't know if we have any Harley guys. That's
Car
like
guys
a
are cool.
special-
Dude, I had a Volkswagen Baja Bug as like my first learner car.
Nice.
And it was completely uncorked, so it was just loud as can be. And everyone was pissed off. So my dad hooked up an old Harley exhaust that had a tube that then went over the exhaust that I had for the Volkswagen because it's like straight up rally where it's pointing straight up, and it
Mhm.
quieted down pretty just a little bit. But
There you go.
So-
See,
I sounded
my dad's
badass.
really into BMWs, and I think he
Oh,
has
God.
2 of them now. And I don't mind riding those. They're nice. They're quiet. The new building, the BHIS building in Sturgis that we bought, BMW will be renting our parking lot during the rally.
Whoa.
So I'm supporting at least bikes that I actually think are okay. And somebody mentioned Indians. I guess Indians are all right. I suppose maybe. But
My uncle's into Nortons.
Nortons.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't. Everybody's googling it right now. What kind of funny
What the
thing can I
hell's
say
it?
about
It's a
Nortons?
British.
Motorcycles?
It's
Is
one
that
of
a
the
cookie?
British companies that probably shut down and is now owned by a Chinese company. Let's be real.
More than
when you
likely.
buy it, they also mine cryptocurrency on your bike. That's what it is.
There we go.
That's if you pay for the Norton Plus plan.
Yeah.
All right.
You
Are
ready
we
to get
kick
started
this
now?
off? Let's do this.
Is there any
All right.
news? I forgot.
You forgot about the news? There's
I
a
know,
lot
I
of
forgot
political
to.
news.
I forgot to make the news.
All right. Let's
Oh,
go.
well, we've got some for you. All right, video in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Black Hills Information Security talking about news. I am in the official remote location in Spearfish, South Dakota. I am not in the basement. I'm up in the attic. So you can see I got my nice fireplace going in the background. Makes things nice and warm in here, which I think is pretty cool. And I guess none of us really know what news stories are going to be popping up today. So Ryan's just going to give it to us. He's going to give it to us blind. And we're going to form opinions about the news without actually reading the news, or as we like to call it, our Twitter section. So what is our first?
It's like
news
a
story?
reaction video.
It's like a reaction video.
Well, we
Kids
do have
react.
a Twitter. We do have a Twitter. We can start off with Twitter because we do have a very important Twitter thing that we've got it's a thread. So we got to click on it and go through it here.
Yes. And reaction will be good for this one for sure.
What could go wrong? Just click random
I'm seeing a
links and then
picture of
follow
the
thread.
queen. I'm wondering
So-
about EXIF data. I think.
Yeah, it's a thing about sharing unwanted stuff online. So this guy
Gore
took
bless
a photo
her.
from the royal family's official Twitter account, and he's doing the old zoom and enhance here
Oh no!
to find some
Whoa. Is
Oh,
he using
no.
GIMP? Is he using GIMP?
very interesting stuff.
No, hold on. You're going too far. You're going too far. No.
Oh, dude, that is classified. That is classified data, dude.
Oh my
No,
Or
no,
whatever
we've
they
been
call it.
Rickrolled.
Sorry, it's for British eyes only.
So for the audio only audience,
you.
we have a Rickroll is what we've got here on this Twitter
OCR
thread.
is programmed to Rickroll you after it gets to a certain pixelation level.
That's the way it should be for everything. I think. Just make sure that we don't take crap too seriously, right?
That's right. It's a good way to start things off.
So, do we want to talk? I can throw in a story here real quickly. There we go. Let's talk about hacker group names. So we got China-linked group attacked Taiwanese financial firms for 18 months. And I don't know how much really there's a lot to learn here. It shouldn't be too much of a surprise that China is actively trying to break into Taiwan. But I think the best thing is I think that this group is known as Pirate Panda. And if we're going to take anything from this, I think that Pirate Panda is probably the best name so far. There's Gothic Panda, Shadow
Well,
Panda.
so you know about
Pirate Panda.
Cozy Bear and all that. Like, you know how they actually make these names, right? They have. So here's how they do it, and this is from the book Sandworm, which CJ turned me on to, which is about the Russian stuff. Like, Sandworm is a Russian APT or whatever that's been doing stuff for years. But basically, one of the security firms, I think it's CrowdStrike, or maybe it's CrowdStrike. They have every country gets a different animal, and then they create like random names for each actor in the country. So like all of China's threat actors are supposed to be pandas. So it's like Happy Panda, Sad Panda, Pirate Panda. I mean, Poopy Panda, I'm assuming is one of them. It goes on. Then Russia is bears. I guess India would be tigers. I don't know.
Iran is kittens.
But
what is America though? Eagles? Like,
yeah, we got
Eagly. Turkeys. Eagly. Oh,
Eagly. No, turkeys.
Eagly.
Eagly. An eagle hugged me. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, Pirate Panda.
That's a good one. So here's the thing I want to take from this particular article, other than the cool name. And I do want to wait. I wonder, like, whenever these new teams come out and they're set up, it's like, so do we got our name yet? And it's in China, where it's going to be something Panda. It's going to be something Panda. You got to get set up. Or Russian Bear. It's going to be Bear. You just see him. It'd be like turned into an episode of Seinfeld. It's like, oh, I hope I'm T-Bone Bear. And it's like, oh no, you don't get to pick. You don't get to pick your APT name. No, what if we put it in our malware that this is created by T-Bone Bear? No, they're not going to give you that. It's like. It's like
that's what Symantec did, but they're no longer on top anymore.
Yeah, they're hoping, and then finally, like, we uncovered a new group of attackers, and this group of attackers we're calling gummy bears. It's like, damn it, why gummy bears? But other than the names, I got an open question. I'd love for the audience, and I'd love for all you. Why the hell are we still reverse engineering this crap? And the reason why I say that is every damn article is the same thing. It's like, we reverse engineered their malware. Okay. And they wanted to move laterally with their malware. Oh, okay. And they established command and control. Oh, okay. And it had the ability to pull files off the system.
And access the webcam. Access the webcam.
Keystroke logger.
Here's the thing. Everyone wants the next Stuxnet. They want to build. They want a blog post. They want to blog post the next Stuxnet. They want to be the people that are like, we found something amazing. But what they're really doing is just doing lolbus. They're like, we found someone that used WMI to execute commands.
It's to fill out their MITRE attack charts. Everyone knows it.
Is it like a bingo?
And then it's threat intelligence bingo. That's the exact thing. It's look what I got. Look what I did. Like.
Well, and at what point do we just stop and be like, malware is going to malware, yo. We reverse engineered the malware. We decrypted everything. We found out it communicated to this IP address. It's like, yeah, you could have gotten that from a packet capture. You know that, right? Like, I get the marketing side of it. I really do. And I think, honestly, our security operations center is ultimately going to have something like this someday, right? Like, we're going to find
we need a
malware.
score. Can we give a score? Like, I want to see like scores, like how cool is it? Not how useful or how
There you
dangerous or whatever,
go.
but just like, is it script kiddie? Like, rank it on a scale of like, pirate panda to poopy panda or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, now there's an idea. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay. So if the malware is just a standard executable and it drops on the system and it's just repackaging of Cobalt Strike, we need like a CVSS score, but for coolness.
Yes.
So Infosec community professionals can see, is this worth my time to read? So if it's the same general run-of-the-mill malware that I can pull off the shelf, but you get like a score of like 1 or maybe 5, make it like 5, right? If it's like absolutely cutting edge and they're using techniques that we have never seen before, then we can start moving up that scale. I think you're right.
I think we should go by tiers.
Well, that's kind of like
list.
what Wizpo was saying. And Ryan just pulled it up there, but there's only so many ways to break into a house. Like, what we really want to see is when they break into a house a different way than we normally do. Their normal ways is they come through the windows, they pick the lock, We really want to see the ones where they're like, so they took a giant saw, they cut through the foundation of the basement and then came in from the bottom. That's what we want to see. They drove a car through the wall, like, medium,
And that's kind of, like Mike and Bo and stuff, like some of the stuff, and Steve and, like a lot of the, Corey, like there's a lot of stuff that you guys do. And I almost feel sometimes like you guys are trying to do cool shit because you're tired of the boring stuff.
100%.
It's like whenever Mike's like, so I was able to create malware that actually hooks into the Windows notification framework, and we can set up Windows notification framework so we can tell whenever somebody's hitting the keys, and then it actually establishes the C2, so it doesn't have a defined pattern associated with, and it's just like, holy crap, that's really freaking cool. Like, why did you do that? It's like, well, the test run was kind of boring. We got in about 2 hours and we had time to kill.
No, I think it should be like a tier list. Like, have you seen like the internet tier list of like S tier, A tier, B, C,
We're gonna
and then all the way
start
down to
listing
like
malware?
F? Yeah, it should be like Stuxnet is like S tier or S plus. It's like,
I think that's
cool.
a great webcast. We just bring up malware and then have a YouTube video where John just classes malware. You're a little bit late on the YouTube trend, but I'm sure someone would watch.
It'll be like no 0 days. It can't be S tier.
It'd be like watching one of John Hammond's videos and be like, oh, they're using XOR over HTTP.
He would be the perfect person to do it.
This is of no interest to me, or they're using like a local privilege escalation exploit that we've never seen before. It's like, all right, I'll give them points for that. Well done.
Yeah, well, those are the best videos. Is like the videos where they invent, or some creators will do like, here's all your ideas and why they're all terrible. Like, it's just like someone getting angry about like, this malware sucks, this one sucks. This isn't even malware. This is just a copy of NTDLL. Like,
what the hell? You're using Netcat? Look, I'm giving you points for style, okay? But it's like, look, they repackaged Poison Ivy and they got it to run on a system. Weird, but I'll allow it.
Yes,
Kumar,
I would subscribe.
Kumar just asked. He said, "What should a threat intel analyst's goal be? Should they be looking for unique patterns of attacks?" So, I'm going to let you guys go first, and then I'm going to, because I always kind of bogart the hell out of this, and I can go get a drink of water. So go ahead.
I think this is a loaded question.
I don't think it is.
No, for you, I mean.
Oh, it is. That's why I'm letting you guys go first.
Your hatred for threat intel is wide.
It's deep.
Public knowledge.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people always with threat intel always talk about like tracking TTPs and IOCs, and I think that's all part of it, right? Understanding how you can get those IOCs into your network and use them even though they are garbage, and then making sure you do have are detecting the proper TTPs. But one thing a lot of people don't really think about is understanding what's in your network as well, right? So if you're working in threat intel, you should know all the software in your network, and you should be that guy who's watching the newsfeed, like, oh, here's a Samba vulnerability, and then I look over in asset inventory and be like, we got Samba everywhere. I think that's one part of threat intel people don't think about, which technically is threat and vulnerability, but I think it encompasses a lot. But the TTPs are golden, I still think. But what do you guys think? I could rant.
I don't know anything. I am the threat, so I have no clue.
So whenever we're looking at threat intelligence, I honestly think that let's start with what garbage threat intelligence is. Okay.
Yeah.
Garbage threat intelligence is if you are purchasing hashes, you're purchasing IP addresses, and you're purchasing domains and URLs. If you're doing that and you're a threat intel analyst and you're merely purchasing those things and you're shoving them into your network, just stop. Just don't do that. Because most of that stuff is repackaged AV signatures, and it's repackaged signatures for bad IP addresses and URLs that are well known. And most of the time, like the targeted attacker that's coming after your environment ain't coming through those, because really good attackers or actual professional attackers, they're actually changing those IP addresses fairly regularly, their URLs, or at least they should be, right? So that's what you shouldn't be doing. So a good threat intel analyst is actually going to be doing something called outlier analysis. So whenever you're doing threat intelligence and you're trying to find, or threat hunting in your environment, you're trying to find an attacker that you're assuming has the ability to actually bypass a lot of the existing traditional based detections that you have in your environment. So just like Wade mentioned just a second ago, TTPs, I think that matters. That's different than IOCs. I want to make a shirt that says TTP greater than IOCs, because I think we need to get that idea in the community. So if we know what an attacker will do, right? If we can get into the TTPs, we can actually start looking in the environment, trying to find outliers of activity, whether it's network, whether it's endpoint artifacts, whether it's URLs that people are surfing. And we can find these outliers in our environment that other users aren't going to. For example, if you're looking for IP addresses, are there IP addresses in your environment that nobody except for that one system is going to? Most of the time, that's not going to be an actual attacker. It's going to be like some server that has some software that's going on, and that's fine. But that goes back once again to what Wade was talking about. You're learning about your environment. You're finding those outliers, right? But it needs to be coupled with an understanding of what threat actors do. So you have a good understanding of what the actual attack methodologies do. So I have this picture, and I got to hunt it down. Whenever you're looking for attack artifacts on an environment, if you get an alert, like there's some kind of outlier on a system, like let's say that there's a network connection from that system, and that's it, probably not all that interesting. If you have one software package or a driver that's installed on one system by itself, probably not all that interesting. But when you start developing a convergence where you have abnormal network traffic going out of your network, you have rare files that are running on that system or processes that are running on that system, that's interesting. And if you have that system is also pivoting to other resources inside of your environment, now it's getting really interesting. So if you're doing threat intel work, you have to understand what threat activities look like. You have to be able to look for outliers in your environment. You have to be able to put these things together to make a determination whether or not that's an advanced threat actor. So that's the way I look at that. And then the final part is IR. Once you actually know or pretty certain that you have malware on the inside of your network, what you're going to do now as a threat intel analyst is be able to effectively and intelligently research what is the IP address it's connecting to. What ports are open on that system without actually port scanning that system? Does that system show up on any blacklists or deny lists? Does that system show up in an ASN that's in a part of the world that really is known for not being a great ASN? So you can do a lot of those things as part of a threat analyst, but it requires you to understand the attack methodology, and it requires you to also have a good understanding of how to research things in your own environment and do outlier analysis. So that's I think that's probably the most subdued threat intel rant I've had so far.
That sounds hard. Can I just buy a thing that I put in my network and connect it to my, plug the Ethernet through it, and it just protects me from everything?
Yeah, especially because my single analyst is just completely overloaded right now. I mean,
yeah, or you could just do that.
That seems way easier.
Yeah, the new Call of Duty came out, so he's pretty overloaded.
He's been pretty busy. He's been playing God of War. It came out on PC, which allows him to play it at work, so that's good.
Don't reveal my secrets.
Yeah, stop.
Stadia has been great for him. Like now we just open Stadia up through the firewall. He's good to go.
He's set up. It's funny you joke about that, but I once got called in on a government DoD contractor, and their SOC was garbage. It was really, really, really trash. And Tim Tomes was the one that actually did the assessment on this engagement. And he found tons of video games on all of their computer systems. And we started doing packet captures and yeah, they were playing games all day long. And I would sit in their meetings for the 2 weeks that we were doing the assessment. And they're like, well, I'm currently working on our Nessus vulnerability reports. And I had to put in some extra time yesterday. And I'm like, that's not what he was doing. I know.
So I pulled your Sysmon logs and
you were playing FIFA World Cup for 8 hours yesterday. I know that's what you were doing. But yeah,
it's because it was investigating it because it could be a malicious process.
It could be. You
gotta beat the game before you know if it's gonna hack you or not.
So somewhere in this game is an Easter egg that opens up malware, and I'm going to find it. So.
My absolute favorite was the time that it was like an IT security admin all in one kind of magical wizard person. Walk in and I'm like, so what have you been up to? And they're like, oh, I've been threat hunting. And I'm like, according to your logs, you've been playing American Deer Hunter 2018. I don't think that counts as threat hunting. Like hunting. It's hunting.
It's hunting.
Not really, but
I expect you to play video games at work. I just expect you to have better taste. I'm not mad. I'm just really disappointed.
Right.
On a side note, back to Intel. If you ever want any good Intel stuff, go look up Katie Nichols. She has an excellent
awesome.
Medium post and excellent Twitter feed, and I follow her. Awesome. So
yeah,
a lot of good info there.
She's great. So yeah. Once again, I mean, we've got to figure out, like I said, what value, and I think that this is a question that a lot of people need to be asking. So, I have people that would take classes like, I want to get into reverse engineering malware. Why? You're not going to do it as part of an IR engagement. You're not. And there's absolutely jobs that require that. Like if you're working for an AV vendor or a firewall vendor, you're going to be doing that. That's your job. I expect that. But if you're a standard security analyst and you're spending time reverse engineering malware, it's like, seriously, you're kind of wasting your time at that point. I know there's a bunch of people that got reverse engineering malware classes. They're like, how dare you say that? No, they're fun.
Would you say that qualifies for PowerShell scripts found, like malicious PowerShell scripts as well? Like obfuscated ones?
When you got to reverse base 64, that counts, all right? And you got to throw it in the chef, and it comes back, and you're like, yep, there we go. We did it.
Now, that's how you get a raise. That's how you look at it, right? You're like, you start with all of this, and it's like plus equals semicolon colons plus plus plus, and you're like, all right, so you can see this clearly encoded. So what I had to do is I had to run it through a whole bunch of, and then you can show people, and here's the script, and your management's going to be like, well done. Well done. And that's fun. That becomes like the CTF side of it. So no, I just say that there is some value in that, I suppose. But
I was just thinking, because I've actually seen stuff like that in environments before where I've actually pulled it out. And usually the reason I'm having to do it is that the AV has no clue what it is. It was just found on the system, so you're trying to figure out
you're
why
just
it's
firing
doing
it off
what it's
on
doing.
your system. YOLO. Click.
Well, no, you just decode it and you're like, okay, this is just a PowerShell crypto miner. Never mind. This isn't something you go find the DLLs it's loading, but I did have like a full low boss like PowerShell crypto miner I had to reverse at one point. Like triple encoded, lots of fun.
This is why people do it, because you can flex on other people with it.
Right.
It's stunt hacking, right? It's the reverse.
Yo,
of stunt
John,
hacking.
dude,
I
I base 63 encoded my last malware.
Whoa.
No one's gonna see that coming.
I definitely have not wrote a detection for base 63.
So the next story that we want to talk about is the macros, saying that they cannot be enabled for macros for files that you download from the internet. Now, especially in like Word documents and PowerPoint, I can see my main concern about this, other than the fact that, it's going to make getting access to some systems a little bit more difficult, is Excel actually, there's a lot of people that use macros very heavily.
Yeah.
So if I
Go
could,
ahead.
Is this
the
based
first
on
thing
Mark
I
of the
saw,
Web?
the first
What is
thing
it
I
based
thought when I saw this article was, okay, so this is going to be why every financial department now is going to request UAC be disabled.
I think it might actually have
in the
a reverse.
enterprise.
Yeah, it's going to have a different impact. So, and I agree with the article where it's basically talking about people have been attacking this, and I think they said since 2000, and I'm like, it's been since macros existed, really. since the early 2000s, right?
So the answer to Noah though, couldn't you just tell them, hey, go work in the cloud, right? Like
but remember, a lot of macros don't work in the cloud. Especially
really?
Yeah, and these are
okay.
VBA macros that we're specifically talking about, not the JavaScript ones that would work in the cloud.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Shows you how often I work in the cloud.
Is this based on Mark of the Web? Is that all it's based on? Like if it has Mark of the Web, you can't run macros? Because it's funny because we don't trust, we avoid Mark of the Web at all costs anyway. So it's kind of ironic. Like, I mean, there's probably still some organization out there that allows that, allows downloads of like docms, like, or like email attachments with docms, but like, I don't know. It sucks. It's another layer for us to get around, but we kind of avoid that anyway. Because, dude, when you run a file that's Mark of the Web, there's like 1,000 alerts. There's 1,000 steps. It's like, are you sure? Are you seriously sure? Send me a picture of Bill Gates that says you're sure. Like,
and a picture of Bill Gates with your passport.
Yeah, really. But you can just embed it in a file or ISO or there's other techniques to get files dropped that don't have Mark of the Web. So
yeah, I just
but,
like I said,
but a great way to get Mark of the Web added to a macro laden Excel document, internal SharePoint, and then your financial team downloads it and tries to run it, and then they request you disable UAC.
That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think is going to happen, right? And for us, for the offensive community, we're basically going to be a situation like, who should we target? Who's most likely going to disable all macro security features? Accounting. And that's where we're going, right? And this sucks for me because like this is like full circle from what I was doing pen testing 13 years ago, right? To try to get these things in, I was targeting those users because they're more than likely going to have reduced security controls and they're more than likely to run anything that pops up. And I think that we're going to get back there fairly quickly. So I don't know. I think that this is going to be relatively short-lived, or there's going to be a specific workaround that you can push out through group policy that'll allow them to work. Because you're right. If they're sharing these files via SharePoint and they're using macros, I mean, our own marketing and finance teams and sales teams, they're using macros all the time in Excel. And if this is shutting it down as soon as you download something, yeah, we're in trouble. It's going to be interesting really, really quick. But I don't know. I feel like
Microsoft's got to have a workaround for the SharePoint thing, like a trusted zone or some crap like that.
Or they're going to force you to download and run the full OneDrive, so you're not going to be able to run the apps in your browser. God help me if that's what they actually do. Somebody just said, one of the downside is they won't learn how to code in modern versions of Excel. And I think that's getting into the JavaScript, learning how to write your macros in JavaScript. So thank God for that.
The VB macros really are just there for legacy support. But if you like the number of accounting VPs that I've talked to where I'm like, we need to get rid of this thing. And they've been like, we've had this for 25 years. If this document goes away, the company will not function anymore. There's an incredibly high number of people that have told me that.
Well, and like I said, that's at the heart of almost every single corporation that's over 100 people. You're going to have the finance people are running Excel spreadsheets and they're going to be running macros and all that. FlackVest said, is it all macros or certain types for certain versions of EB? I got the impression from the article that it was all macros. They're just shutting them down if they got Mark of the Web. It's it. You're not going to be able to run it. So it's going to get interesting. But hell, whatever. Finance people often reuse ancient code, plus they don't understand the original person left years ago. Smart card reader thing, it's overlooked, fail the security. Yeah, true.
And macro programming used to be a lot more common thing. I mean, it was taught in schools and stuff even. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for people to know how to write some basic, simple macro code. And now if you look at the modern user, it's not as common.
Yeah. And
so you see things like old Access databases and these old spreadsheets that have been used for 20 years and nobody knows how to fix them.
Yeah. And from my perspective too, in the cyber deception class, we actually have honeypots where you can create an Excel spreadsheet and when they open it, it'll geolocate them. And I don't know, this kind of makes that a little bit more complicated, but I know that if attackers get access to something and they think it's going to have value, they will try to find a way to execute the macros on them. And we've had experience with that. But it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. But I think that this is part of Microsoft. Like Microsoft clearly doesn't want people running Exchange on-prem anymore. We know that, right? And Microsoft is clearly pushing as many people to go to the cloud for absolutely everything as they possibly can. So I think this is just more so probably a step in that direction than it has anything to do with macros. Because it's not like Microsoft woke up today. It was like, oh my God, CISA called. And they said that macros are being used in hacker attacks? What? Oh, we're going to have to shut that down. Thanks for letting us know, CISA. So that's not what it is. I think that there's a market push associated with it. They're trying to get people to run their crap in the cloud. And Microsoft doesn't want to run those macros in the cloud because they're not that stupid. So
you just get a beacon from like Microsoft HQ. You're like, oh, looks like they ran the macro. Whoops.
Uh-oh. Well, we were doing that, and for a while, Google would actually trigger. And if you had something that was doing like a beacon back macro, it would start coming from like Google server, for like Google Docs. And you're like, oopsies. So thankfully they shut that down as well.
I threw a canary token at someone with an image, and all of a sudden I got like Washington. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And it's Google. And I'm like, but then it like
got Google again.
I know. Then it
Google's
goes Nigeria.
a threat
And I'm like,
actor.
oh, there they are.
I knew Google was a threat actor. So, all right. What's the next story we got here? Ryan's going to queue them up for us. The reaction videos. It's going down to the next one. Here it comes. Feel the
Enhance.
excitement.
So say if we want,
Scroll.
technically, if we're talking about Google being a threat actor, we can talk about how Apple is a threat actor according to Facebook now.
Oh my God. Oh, let's talk about that a little bit. Did Apple screw Facebook over incredibly hard or what?
Right?
So this is just one of many articles. So basically what happened is Apple enabled security privacy protection mechanisms where you had to opt in to allow an app to start collecting information like your location, all kinds of personal information. And I've seen the graph. I don't know if this article has it, but there's a graph that shows the value of Facebook. And there's like this cliff where it loses 25% of its value as soon as Apple turns that on. And it absolutely just killed Facebook because their ad revenues went in the toilet because they weren't able to harvest as much user information as they were from Apple users to be able to give them targeted ads on that as well.
Yeah. Right. If you just Google Meta stock in Google and then go to like the 1 month view, you can see it. But basically boom. February 2nd, their value was 323. And basically, as soon as the market opened, their value dropped to 237.76.
So that was because they published a report that they lost users for the first time ever.
But that's related to this in that sense.
It is.
But
it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, I mean, I think it's multiple pressure points for them.
And TikTok is eating their lunch as well.
It's multiple pressure points. It's number one, they are losing market share of people using Facebook. It's got the boomer label. It's getting cannibalized by TikTok and other platforms. And now their money generating of selling ads is double whammy. Number one, privacy stuff. And number two, losing users. If I'm buying an ad, why would I buy an ad on Facebook? They're losing users and they can't target people as specifically as they used to. So I'm just not going to. So it's like double whammy.
The other thing I would say is I don't think that their Meta rebrand went quite how they wanted. I think the public kind of saw what they were doing with that, and they didn't totally appreciate that.
Well, because no one knows or cares what the metaverse is. I'm like one of the nerdiest people ever, and I still am like, I've been to the metaverse once, and it was pretty lame. So like a whole huge company that brands itself as this thing that no one knows what it is, no one has experienced it. It's a questionable move. I know it's probably a sink or swim.
Even if
Elon
you have an
Musk,
Oculus, it's not that easy to get to.
No, it's not. And it's funny, like Elon Musk is talking about the brain computer interface, right? And I don't know, there was some stupid story where it was like, we can actually give people orgasms on demand. And you can see people that are investing in the metaverse, they're like, wait a minute, that's where the money needs to go, because that's what's going to win, right? And when you think about
I was
going to say the metaverse, when you think about the metaverse, like you think about like really cool books like Snow Crash and The Matrix and all that. And really it's just a bunch of super awkward goggles and you get dizzy and you get sick to your stomach when you're wearing them or when you take them off.
It's not just, there yet.
It's not there. So go ahead. Somebody was talking. I apologize.
I think it depends on what games you play, because I was one of those people who got it for Christmas and hooked up the Airlink and stream off my PC, which is a decent gaming rig. And playing like the Oculus games is kind of okay, right? I do get the cyber sickness, but then once you jump into something like Half-Life or even the Star Wars games, I kind of understand like, okay, if this were to break out a little bit more, I could see why Zuckerberg pushed all the money for it. Because like Half-Life is amazing. Like I would highly.
Are you still playing that with a keyboard and mouse?
No, I'm playing it with complete controls. Downstairs, punching TVs, punching my walls. I'm trying to throw a grenade across the room. My wife yelling at me. And
you're selling this really well, Wade.
But dude, it's so niche. It's so niche. Like even amongst gamers, which is already a niche of this general population. Like think about how many users Facebook has. Yeah. It's like a decent chunk of the global population, right?
I don't think people realize how cheap they are though now. Because I got one for $200 used, right? And I was like, that's it. I was expecting to drop like 600 bills and then not even be able to play on my PC and then find out that it's a wireless link to my computer, that there's no lag time on a 5G and it's just there. And the games, the multiplayer games are okay. Some like they have one that's Overcooked. If you've ever played that, where you're sitting there cooking sandwiches and me is like a fast food background. I'm just loving it, yelling at orders. Like you got 2 sandwiches on rye and with mustard and everyone's just flipping. It's fun, but you got to have a couple more people buy in. I think the advertisement isn't there yet.
So here's the thing that I thought was interesting is we got an Oculus, right? And you know, whenever you turn on your Oculus or like in your living room, in your virtual living room, that's like one of those things that I think because you can mark out your house. Like people are like, how does it know the boundaries? And it shows you this really crappy, granularly, like, you know, black and white where the camera shows you what your house looks like, which is stupid. But you can mark your house out and then you can literally like create this amazing place that you're living in with it. And I think people that have like really crappy apartments, that might be really a cool selling point. Because then your house
here's the thing. Okay, so we're talking about gaming, right? So the biggest gaming company in the world is Sony, and their revenue is $10 billion, okay? Facebook's revenue, just Facebook by itself, is like over $70 billion. So like Facebook as a company is 7 times bigger than the biggest gaming company in the world. Like now you know what I mean?
Is that sales? I got to ask Corey, is that
that's
sales?
Revenue.
That's revenue. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So like basically what I'm saying is, my point is that the metaverse is a niche concept that applies to a subset of the population already versus Facebook, which applies to everyone. Like everyone, or not everyone, but the general internet population uses things like advertising and things like websites and social media. They don't necessarily game. And even within gaming, they definitely don't go as specific as I'm going to have a room in my house or an area in my house that is dedicated to a platform that is in many ways less easy to use than just looking at a screen, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just an interesting play for a company that they're saying like, we're going to corner a market that we are 100 times bigger than this entire market. Like it's
interesting. Like you said too, Facebook is labeled as old and is starting to die out at that point. So maybe their response is like, we need to go with the newest technology we can think of. Quantum computers aren't quite ready yet, so let's go to VR headsets.
Yeah, I feel like
have you linked the VR headset with your computer and then like had all like I have 3 monitors, so I can pull up each monitor.
Totally did that.
And so it's like 65-inch monitors. I'm sitting there at my desk. And I'm just like,
it feels like I'm an ant in a theater. It's like I have a high definition theater screen as my computer.
And it definitely
is niche, but it's pretty cool.
It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. However, the limitations are so obvious so immediately that it is like I see why it is causing a market panic, because it's really like the hardware isn't really ready. I think if I had to guess, and this is total speculation, Facebook had this plan, right? This is probably their 10-year plan. And then they're feeling pressure that's like, we better accelerate this plan. We better accelerate this plan. Oh shit, we're doing it now. We're going like, I don't know. That's my guess. Because it's just tough.
So here's my thing about it is I feel like a lot of these vendors are too tightly coupling and closing off the ecosystem because they want apps to be sold on their store so that they can make revenue. And I think the only way that this works, And I agree, like with Wade, what he's saying. The technology is amazing. Even if it has limitations and things, like the technology is freaking amazing. Here's the deal. I don't think that a bunch of executives at Facebook, as much money as they have, are going to be able to find that killer app or that killer hook. I honestly think that they need to open source this as much as they possibly can, get all kinds of crazy people coming in and doing all kinds of crazy stuff with it. And, the more people that you have coming up with this, the more applications for this technology are going to exist. And I can't see a large corporation like Facebook being supportive of something like that and allowing that environment to actually exist with that level of insanity. I just can't see them just doing that. You almost need like a full crazy open source model where people are, the SDKs are super easy to use and people are creating all kinds of things. Like, the one that I saw that the potential is like, holy crap, this is interesting, is there's a game where nothing moves until you move. And bullets are coming at you and you stop moving. And I can't remember what the name of it is.
Super hot.
Yeah.
Super hot.
What is the biggest metaverse like app? Is it VR chat?
No, VR chat's something completely different.
Yeah.
So that is metaverse, isn't it?
No,
Or
VR
No.
chat is like originally from like Steam, right? So
Yeah.
the
Well, what I
actual
mean is that
metaverse-
it is a metaverse app, not made by Meta, but like
I don't think.
We just terming metaverse to basically be anything within the VR space.
Yeah.
I think right now we're defining metaverse as what Facebook is calling the metaverse. Because if you actually go to like a lot of InfoSec geeks and you're like, metaverse, we immediately start thinking of like Ready Player One. We start thinking of this bigger thing. And unfortunately, because they have names that are similar, I'm talking specifically about what Facebook is doing. And
which is what? I'm not even what are they defining the metaverse as?
So
Making their own-
Their
making-
ecosystem.
yeah, their ecosystem. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Have you guys seen that Walmart demo thing yet, which I put out?
no.
I will go
Oh,
find
the
video for
shopping?
that. Yes,
The shopping?
that's like the
Oh.
only thing concrete metaverse which I've seen so far, which they've put out.
So that
The thing with that is that just violates so many things. Like,
Yeah.
I go and buy my groceries on the computer because I don't want to go to the store.
grocery
Yes.
store.
So,
I like
dude,
the
this
app because it doesn't feel like Walmart.
this illustrates the
Right.
exact this is why their stock is tanking, because we're 5 nerds or 6 nerds and we don't even know what it is or what it's supposed to be, let alone the stock market where people are like, I'll buy $300 of Facebook. Like, I mean, it's so abstract, and it's so like, I think they're just way too ahead of the curve to really be anywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
What's the VR arcade where it's like, I think there's one in Utah where it's a big empty room, and is it the Void or it's something?
yeah, there's
like
a bunch
that.
of those.
Ryan
There-
just said NFTs
Yeah.
are more clear than this, but there,
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the problem of defining the space, right? Because you can't say the metaverse is what we all think the metaverse is, because that ain't it. It's what not Apple. That's what Facebook wants it to be. Now, I want to pull it back into some security stuff, and I want to ask you all a question, talking about Facebook and privacy and all these things, because it's awesome. We're not talking about ransomware today, which is so cool. So let's say I went to my psychologist, right? And I sit down and I tell this person, I tell them my sexual preferences, I tell them my shopping preferences, I tell them what my hobbies are, I tell them all that stuff. That is PHI, right? If my psychiatrist cannot take that data and they cannot sell it, they can't make money on it, they can't give it to people without my consent. Partner networks, yes, they can, because you sign up with the same network. What is the difference between me sitting down and having a conversation with a psychologist and the data that Facebook and Google are collecting on us as individuals?
The first thing that comes to my mind is that normally when you sit down with your psychologist, you don't have like 50 other people in the room while you say it.
Hopefully, otherwise you did something really
Right.
weird.
I mean, that's the thing with Facebook. Facebook's like, oh, it's okay for us to give out some of this information because you're just giving it out anyhow.
Yeah, the difference is that if you did tell your psychologist, there are laws and regulations that govern what they can do with it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Right.
Facebook can just do whatever the hell they want.
But
with
see,
it.
but that's we're not talking about Facebook and like what they can and can't do. The core data itself, I don't think there's any difference. In fact, I would argue not Facebook, but Google for me would be the one that would probably be the one more apt for me personally. I would say Google would know more about me than any psychiatrist.
Then you know about
that I would
yourself,
talk to.
probably.
Yeah, probably more than I
yeah.
know about myself.
Yeah,
I
for
agree.
sure. Well, yeah, and I mean, like the classic age-old example is like Target's algorithms knew a woman that a woman was pregnant before she did because of
Mhm.
her purchasing habits changed and her, she was doing different things, and they were like, "Hey, you're pregnant." She was like, "What?"
How did you know, ma'am? You
yeah.
just bought 16 chocolate bars and 4 jars of pills.
Yeah. So for sure, I would argue and this is probably Apple's argument that your location, your even screen time. Dude, have you ever looked at the screen time reports on your phone? It is the most depressing thing. Oh, here's all the statistics about where I spend my time, where I go, what I do.
Reddit.
That is
Reddit.
definitely
The first
more than,
app you open when you addictedly
wake your
open your
phone?
phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Literally my screen time report tells me what I'm addicted to before I even knew it. I'm like, oh, it's been Audible. That's good. Okay, it's been Reddit. That's bad. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh,
Or
that's interesting.
You're traveling and you're like, oh my God, I spent 16 hours on Reddit. How is that possible? But it goes back to that data that they have on you is more in depth. It's more personal than what you would get from a psychological health professional.
I think the only real protection we have when we were talking about security through obscurity is that it is a haystack. I mean, it is hard to go through because maybe you just left your phone open for 16 hours, or maybe you actually used it for 16 hours.
I love that because it's
So-
because I'm trying to get to the point where I want to push the industry to get that data classified as PHI. And if Facebook wants to collect it, fine, but they got to protect it and not sell it the way that a hospital would.
My sleep data, my heart rate data, all that
your
stuff.
Sleep data, your heart rate data, all that shit. That's health data. That should be no different than what's at Kaiser Permanente or Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever hospital that you go to. And I'm trying to kind of war game this. What is the difference? And if the difference
the picture I took of an open wound on my arm or whatever, is that
you laugh about that. But my son, whenever he got this really horrific ATV accident, his leg was split open. When we were heading in, I took a picture and sent it in to the ER. And it was like shit. It got uploaded to Google Cloud. So
they're sending you ads for scooters.
Band-Aids.
Yeah. Really bad ones. It was a bad accident. It'd be like, so you're thinking about having another kid? It's like, what? No. Oh God.
I
Heather
do think
pointed out
Corey
that.
did have a point, and I wanted to kind of mention it too, because I do agree with you, John, that that should be classified information, absolutely. In the meantime, while it's not classified information, how do we keep that information from getting leaked out? And I think Corey kind of pointed to it a little bit. The answer is, in a sense, you got to hide in the noise just a little bit too, and you just feed as much bad data into their algorithms as you can.
See, and that was one of the projects I'd love to get an intern on that you can install on your browser and your phone, and it'll just generate white noise, right?
So one of the things I found was that with Amazon, actually, Amazon now has no idea what I like to buy. And the reason was actually completely by accident. I got added to my family's Christmas list on Amazon as collaborators. So now every time that my sister puts a dress into her shopping list on Amazon, it thinks that I actually want that.
Which is great.
Which recommends all that. It's fantastic. I've actually been no, totally keep me on there as a collaborator. And I've joined other lists now as collaborators just to throw the algorithm off because that's it. But yeah, we need to find ways to feed bad data into the algorithms to hide.
So if you're listening to this and you want to develop a browser plugin for Firefox that does just this, please get a hold of me. I'd be happy to pay you to develop this as an open source project.
So my living room, I have a TV in my living room hooked up to a computer, and most of my accounts are logged into that computer. So when people come over, we'll go on Reddit or YouTube or stuff like that. And I've recently I realized my algorithms are completely screwed across the board. I never get anything I like because my wife watches everything on my YouTube account. My friends are searching for stuff on my Reddit account. So I'm just completely wild stuff comes up. The what's next button, I'll click on YouTube and this is something I've never heard of, and just keep going further down the rabbit hole. So that security through obscurity is great.
And my thing is, do we need it as consumers? Sorry, Corey. Do we need
No,
to have Facebook?
yeah, that's
being this
exactly
good
that's
at
exactly what I was
reading
going
it?
to say.
Oh, go
That
ahead.
brings up that brings up the exact thing that is like terrifying and probably going to happen, which is that people at some point will probably make the decision, I will give you my data if you give me the movies that I want to watch that I don't know what they're called. Like there are people that will do that, and at some point, like for example, I don't know if you guys use Siri. Siri's terrible because they don't mine data. They suck at it. They're not good at, like, Apple's bad at mining data. They haven't read our emails for 10 years. They have no idea what I'm trying to say. And there gets to a point where I'm like, Siri, I said turn off the light in the bedroom, not set a reminder for 6 a.m. Like it is so bad, and I could see myself being like, you know what? I'm gonna go use Google. Like I will like
It's
take
just gonna
the
make it
hit.
so much easier.
I will give away I just want that song that I listened to 2 years ago. Like tell me what it was.
How hard
Give
is
me the
that?
nostalgia hit. I think a lot of people who would say, like, I'll do it. I will give you my PHI or whatever, as long as you tell me if I have cancer before I know, that kind
It's
of
the
thing.
chocolate. It's the chocolate problem, right? It's like, would you give me your password for a bar of chocolate? And like a huge percentage of the population is like, yes, I want that bar of chocolate. I can get
we had
access
an
to a bunch
article
of
on here
stuff.
not too long ago where Amazon was like, we'll give you $10 in Amazon discounts if you will give us your fingerprints. And yeah, I was going to mention that Burkle's posted that there, and it looks exactly like what we need.
Yeah, so
But,
let's try to get this. Let's try to amplify noisy. Thank you, Ben, for that. I'm now emailing it to myself.
This
so I
looks
can
like a
install it
phishing
on
site,
everything.
but I'm in.
It does. It does. It does.
Like it looks like.
Regards to privacy, data privacy, you will have a hell of a time getting Gen Z on board with this. For as long as I've been alive, privacy really does not exist as a concept. I mean, we existed
Okay, now
in
that's
the
true.
Nor does Gen Z expect that.
Yeah, we don't.
And that's bad.
Everything you could literally go and data mine every little thing that you have on me, probably just from what you literally know about me right here, and
See, and I've had conversations, dude. I've had conversations with the younger generation, and a lot of times you start talking about privacy and all of that, and they're just like, "And what's the problem with that?" I'm like, "But they have everything on you." They're like, "Okay."
Or the more lackadaisical version, which is, yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know Facebook's mining my every move and heartbeat, but
yeah. Well, dude,
whatever,
I think it's
there's
Gen
no
Z's problem.
Like it's all about like
solve.
reasonable expectation of privacy, and there is none. Is
Yeah,
basically
and
what
I
it
think
comes
that's a
down
great
to.
point.
It's their problem to solve. They'll end up with holding the bag. Like, it's just the
They're not
reality.
going to solve it though, right? I
Well,
mean, if they don't care, and that's fine. You're right. It's their problem to solve. If they choose to solve it, great. If not, great. It's their problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know my generation. I talk to people about this, and they all know about it. And I'm probably better than most with this. It's just it would be so tiring in our generation to stay as a member of Gen Z and connected and stuff like that, and actually try and keeping your privacy. Literally everything we do and stuff like that. Like what was the big app 2 to 3 years ago during quarantine? TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is absolutely terrible. Did any of my generation actually care?
Yeah.
TikTok's algorithm is so good too. Like the moment you start watching TikTok, you get videos that are tailored just for you. Like I refused to get it, and then I realized my wife's algorithm sucked. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll download it. And then right off the bat, it's like Star Wars, security, airplanes. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, where are you pulling this data from? I'm like, all right, it's done. It's gone.
Well, I did the same thing. I tried it out. I downloaded it, tried it out. And like you said, the algorithm had you pinned, and I had I mean, you just straight up get addicted. It's like faster than cigarettes.
Yeah.
And then you have to like rip yourself away from that, and then you feel ashamed of yourself, and then you go on. But
yeah, I'm actually planning on getting a book. I don't know, was it Box or Box? BOOX or Books, I guess is how it's pronounced. And they're like a Kindle, but it's actually kind of an Android, and it doesn't have a microphone, doesn't have all that. It's actually like a crappy bigger phone. And part of the reason why I want to do that is I kind of want to start untethering a little bit, but still having the connectivity that I need to do my job. Because for me, Reddit is a problem. It's absolutely a problem. Folks, I need to go. My family's here, and I haven't seen them in days. So, Ryan, can you take us out? Or you know what? You guys keep talking about this because everyone likes to talk about it. Screw it.
No, that's the best way to end.
Yeah.
Your algorithm decided you need to.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have decided I'm done with computers for the day. So you guys keep talking about this. Is awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Talk to you next week.
Bye,
see you, John.
Yeah.
See you, John.